Hey, Pete, you've been on a great journey. I mean, you've lost about 120 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. You went from being obese to being very fit.
Thank you.
And so I just want to talk a little about that journey, where you were and where you are now, and how did that all happen?
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
Very
Let's do
good.
it.
Thank you. So just initially, I guess, tell us a little about where you were mentally and where you were physically at the beginning of your journey.
Yeah. Well, I was never a fit kid growing up. I've been overweight my entire life. In fact, I always joke, there was like a 3-month period where I was fit. And it was literally when I got married, right? Because everyone wants to lose weight for when they get married.
Sure.
And then I call it the big V. It was like I lost all this weight. And I remember within months, like 3-4 months, I'd already gained back 25, 30 pounds. And
Wow.
it just like, my body went back to where it used to be. Mm-hmm. So, I will say my mindset has always been, I'm a fat guy. It has never been, I'm a fit guy at all. So that was the mindset. And, just over the years, you keep adding weight, reached 300 plus pounds. And I don't think anyone is ever happy when they're fat.
Sure.
We learn to deal with it. We learn to, just kind of be like, well, that's how I am. I'm a big guy, right? Whatever. We justify it in our head, however we need to justify it. But I don't think anyone's ever happy being that way. And so it was just kind of like one day I just decided, okay, I'm going to start exercising.
Okay. Great point. And that does lead into something that I'm really curious about. Do you remember the day or an event or something that happened that you said, I am going to make a change and I'm going to start this path?
No.
Okay.
No. And that's kind of the ironic part. I think it's because of my mindset being, well, I'm just a fat guy. I'm always going to be fat. I'm never going to be fit. But realizing, man, I was just getting bigger and bigger and I hated it. Like I was self-conscious about it. I mean, people always talk about being secure in who you are. I'm a pretty secure person, except physically. I was never like a secure person physically. And so really all it was I knew I needed to get into shape. And I just figured, okay, I'll start exercising.
Okay.
Because I didn't, at the time when I started this, I didn't know what I know today. And
Sure.
so I just went off of, like when I got married 20 years ago, what is this, the Mike Pence fly? Are you kidding me? For those of you who saw the VP debate, there you go. 20 years ago when I got married, I lost a lot of weight very, very quickly. And as a result, 2 years later, I had to have emergency surgery and they removed my gallbladder. And it was because I had lost weight incorrectly. And so in the back of my mind, there was always this fear of, Pete, losing weight could kill you. Because literally, I developed gallstones about 60 days into my weight loss journey 20 years ago. So bad, 2 years later, I have to have my gallbladder removed. And they had told me, hey, if we hadn't gone in there a couple more days, you'd be dead. Because it had already started to go gangrenous and stuff like that. So, I got this mindset of, losing weight could kill you, better not even try, you're really fat, you really got to do something, I'll just start exercising.
Okay.
And so from 20 years ago, what did I do to get fit? All I did was literally go on a starvation diet and exercised like crazy. So in my mind, that was how you were supposed to get fit. And I was like, well, I'm not going to starve myself, but I'm going to start on the exercise bike.
Okay. So you started exercising, and at this point, we're talking what, May or
this was about
June of 19?
April of 2019.
April of 19.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that time, what kind of health issues did you have? Because if I recall correctly, you had some serious health issues going on too.
Well, I mean, sure. I can't honestly say that they motivated me.
Okay.
So about, I think it was maybe 2 years before, a year before, something like that, I'd been diagnosed as being pre-diabetic.
So you were on the path to a daily insulin shot.
100%. It runs in my family like a freight train. My dad's diabetic. My grandmother was diabetic. I got other family members who I'm sure are diabetic. They just haven't gone to the doctor to get the diagnosis.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had that. And honestly, I can't say that motivated me. Like, I remember...
So a serious health issue like pre-diabetic was not enough to make you start changing life habits and exercise and all that?
No, in fact, when it happened, because my eyes were starting to get blurry, and so I'm like, well, maybe I got diabetes. I'll go to the doctor. I go to the doctor. I get the blood test, and the lady's like, well, you're not diabetic. You're pre-diabetic. And I remember thinking, hey, I'm good. All right, I got time, baby, you know? And then I went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor is this young little punk kid, and he's like, yeah, you're just getting old. And I'm like, screw you, you little punk. I mean,
because at that time you were what, 40, 41?
Probably 40, 41, something like that. 42, I mean, somewhere in that
just
range.
A young pup still.
Yeah, a young pup. I feel older and older. I've had knee problems my whole life. I had knee surgeries in high school.
Partly due to the weight.
I'm sure it didn't help. Yeah. I mean, you know, an extra 120 pounds on your knees is never a good thing.
Of course.
So, so I did have those health issues, but honestly, like I said, it wasn't a motivating factor for me to get in shape.
Okay. So go back to that starting point again. Again, something motivated you. What, I mean...
I just wanted to get fit. And so
why? Why did you want to get fit?
I wasn't happy with how I looked.
Okay.
I will say one thing that is absolutely a motivator for me is I didn't want to be ashamed in front of my wife.
Great motivator.
I mean, really, motivator. I didn't like, not even like when we go out together, but literally the two of us are alone, intimate, whatever. I didn't want to be ashamed.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there was that. And when I started...
And kids are of an age where they want to run around and play, and they want dad to run and play with them, right?
Yeah, you know what's funny is, and I've told this to so many people, I never knew how bad I felt because I had never been fit.
Okay.
And I had nothing to compare it to.
Okay.
So
you thought feeling crappy was normal.
I did. Like, I didn't know like how good you could actually feel.
Yeah.
And I look back on it now and I'm like, dude, all the times, you know, kids would want to go do something. I'd be like, no way, man. I don't want to. I didn't realize it was because of how crappy I felt. Mm-hmm. And it was like the thought of putting out that energy, like subconsciously my mind's going, dude, are you kidding me? Yeah. Don't do this.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that you could actually feel good.
Sure.
I didn't.
So in the very beginning, how hard was it to actually make that mental commitment that I am going to do this? How was that an easy or a hard step for you?
Hard because I don't know when I started that I believed I could lose the weight that I lost.
Sure.
And I don't even know that that was a goal. I honestly think my goal was I'm just going to start. Mm-hmm. And so like I said, I started working out on an exercise bike and I was like, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. Because I was like, I know if I do 30, I'm going to kill myself. Mm-hmm. So I do 5. And then a couple days later, I go, okay, now I'm going to bump it up to 8 minutes. And then, okay, I'm going to bump it up to 13. All right, now I'm going to bump it up to 15 and 20 and 25 and 30. And finally, you know, what kept me going was at the beginning, seeing the initial results. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you saw signs of success. Mm-hmm. Relatively quickly, and I say relatively quickly, I lost about 20 pounds.
In what period of time?
That's why I say it's relatively. I mean, it was probably over 6 weeks, I would say.
Okay, a month and a half to 2 months, something like that.
Something like that. And in fact, I was...
Which is great. I mean, that's great.
Well, it 100% kept me going, because it's like, dude, I'm down 20 pounds. You know, I'm sub 300. This is good. And so I would want to keep going and want to keep going. But again, at the beginning, I didn't know about the whole nutrition side. I was still under the impression that it's all about calories in, calories out.
Had you reduced your calories?
Yes. I wasn't counting calories.
But were you trying to eat less?
I was trying to eat less.
Yeah.
I
Were
wasn't
you hungry?
That's part of the problem. So lose 20 pounds. I'm working out. I'm hungry all the freaking time. And I'm no longer losing weight.
Oh.
And I got pissed. I was like, this is why I don't diet. Like, I'm hungry all the time. I'm exercising like crazy. I'm hardly eating anything, and I'm not losing any weight.
And what kind of exercise were you doing?
Again, it was all cardio.
All cardio, no
All
strength
cardio.
training.
No, I didn't do any strength training until you.
Okay.
And so what happened was, it was kind of funny, because I went to this event. I was actually a speaker at this event. It's called Genius Network. Everyone in the room pays 25 grand to be in there. And I've been asked to deliver a 10-minute talk. And your 10-minute talks basically have to be an idea, a concept that have helped you generate $250,000 of business. So I'm like, you know, this is a big deal for me.
Sure.
I'm in front of literally all these millionaires, and I'm delivering this message. And so I go to this event, and it was actually kind of cool for me, because and normally I wear shorts and a t-shirt. That's just how I walk around. But, you know, I'm wearing one of my suits.
Right.
And my belt was too loose, right?
Okay.
And I was like, crap, dude. So literally the night before, I'm out in Arizona. I got to find a Walmart or a Target, I don't remember what it was, to buy a new belt so my pants wouldn't fall off while I'm doing this talk. So, I mean,
Nice
it was like,
feeling.
right, it was
Good
encouraging.
problem to have.
Right? But then it was like, I get back and I've stopped being able to lose weight. And so I can tell you exactly what changed for me, and where everything for me completely changed. It got easy to lose weight. It got fun to lose weight. It was June 1st. My wife had just gone to bed. I was like, oh, I'm still not tired, so I'm going to stay up and watch something on Netflix. And I turned on a food documentary, and I don't normally watch food documentaries. I don't know why I turned it on. It was called Fed Up with Katie Couric, and I'm watching this thing, and I'm starting to get really pissed, because they're explaining exactly what I'm going through about being hungry all the time, not able to lose weight. And then they start going into literally the lies that the government has been telling us, that the food industry is doing to us. And I didn't really understand what I call the sugar phenomenon. And I mean, everyone knows sugar's bad, but we're thinking cakes and brownies, and, you know,
You're thinking desserts, basically.
you're thinking desserts. And what I didn't realize is that the food industry, when they started taking out all the fat, which your body can process actually,
And needs for taste.
and needs it, right? They have to dump in all of this sugar.
So it'll taste right.
Right, and they're like, oh, it's lower calories. The thing that really made sense to me as I'm watching this documentary is they're like, look, when they go to look at the caloric value of a food, they're in a laboratory. Your body does not burn food like a laboratory. It treats foods differently. Some foods, it's going to do this with it. Some foods, it's going to do that path with it, you know? And I was like, that totally makes sense. And I don't remember if it was that movie or another one, because I started watching all kinds of documentaries after this. But they were talking about how if you drink like a 20-ounce soda,
A regular.
regular Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
you would have to go run like 2.5 miles to burn off all the calories because of how quickly the body processes the sugar. And I was like, I don't run. And then it was like, and if you drink a 32 ounce, and it wasn't even that much more, it was like you had to do that every day for a week to burn off those calories, again, because of how quickly the body is processing that.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, every Sunday I go to the movies and I get a small, which is a 32 ounce. And I'm like, and I'm not a runner,
Yeah.
right? So I was pissed. And the movie was great, but it was like, here's the problem, and they never talked about the solution. And so I Google the movie, I find some of the people who are in it, I start buying their books, I'm reading their books, and this one book, I don't remember again what it was called, but the basic idea was to do what they called a sugar detox. Mm-hmm. And what I discovered, and you know this, is that sugar is actually very addictive. And they've done studies that have on mice, and they gave mice the opportunity to have either sugar water or cocaine water, and they would rather have the sugar water. Like, that's how addictive sugar is. And so the basic premise of this guy's strategy was like, look, we got to break the sugar addiction. The sugar addiction is what's causing you to be hungry all the time, because your body is literally craving that fix. Only it doesn't have like a sugar hormone that it can go, hey, you want sugar? It just says, you're hungry, give me some of that sugar. And so I was like, okay, this makes sense why I'm hungry all the time. I got to break that. That week, my wife and I were supposed to go to Las Vegas for her birthday. Mm-hmm. And so I tell her, hey, I'm going to do this sugar detox. You know, for the next 10 days, I'm following what this guy says. And she goes, well, we're going to Las Vegas. And I'm like, I'm going to be doing it on Las Vegas. And she was like, you don't want to wait until after? I'm like, no, I don't want to wait until after. I want to start this now. I don't want to put this off anymore.
Yeah.
And that was when things started to change for me. And I started to understand the nutrition side. And it was shortly after that I was like, hey, man, I know Wayne. I've known Wayne since 2005.
Right.
He's a, former competitive champion bodybuilder. I know he knows all about the whole nutrition side. And I was just like pumping you for information, going, what do I do? How do I do this? And then you brought up to me, it's not just sugar, but it's foods the body processes so quick, it might as well be sugar.
Right.
And it was like, after that, everything became easy. The food started tasting great. Like, my taste buds changed. Mm-hmm. I love the foods that I eat. I was never hungry. Like, I lost 120 pounds and was never hungry in that time.
That's amazing.
And it was because now I got my body eating correctly and processing food correctly. And it's like, okay, this is how it's supposed to run. And it became an easy thing to do.
Very good. Okay, so that's awesome information. But let's talk about the mental side. Like, how did you mentally go through month after month of sticking to a relatively low calorie diet, a low sugar diet? Didn't you have cravings? Didn't you have times where you just wanted to go crazy and eat anything and everything?
Okay, so the cravings part, let me address like this. Because I'd finally understood that the food industry wanted me addicted to sugar and their foods, to keep buying their crap, I was so pissed at that.
Okay.
That I was like, I don't care what it takes. Right. I'm never going to get addicted to sugar again, you bastards.
Okay.
So physically, I wasn't addicted. Mentally, it took about 7 months.
That long? For
me to be able to go, I don't need that. I don't want that. So, like, this is pre-COVID days. Our church would have donuts after service, right? And I'd, love to go have my donut and stuff like that. It took about 7 months to where I was like, okay, I'm cool. I don't need that donut. Whereas the first 7 months, I'd be like, dang it, everyone else is having a big old maple bar, and I'm over here, no, I'm not going to eat it, right? So it took a while for the mental side for that to come under control.
That's what I've noticed with most people is the physical addiction is gone in 3 or 4 weeks, roughly. The mental side, though, there's just that mental mind game that your brain keeps playing with you that says, hey, that tastes great.
Right.
Let's go have one.
Right. Yeah. And so, like, it was kind of funny because we're actually recording this on my 45th birthday. And so while I was telling you, I'm like, hey, by the way, when you come up, bring me a present. And you're like, oh, dude, my wife will make you whatever. Because your wife loves to bake.
And is an awesome baker. She can make you
cookies,
anything you
breads. And I'm like, oh, geez, I know that's a sincere offer. I don't want it. Like, please don't bring it up.
And it's funny because I told Christine, I said, hey, it's Pete's birthday today, and she's like, oh, tell him happy birthday for me. And I'd already had a conversation with her earlier where I said, don't make anything for him. And so we did have that conversation.
Right.
And so all she said was, well, tell him I said happy birthday.
And tell her thank you. But yeah, I mean, so it you know, it did take a while for the physical, or not the physical addiction. In fact, it's kind of funny because in the keto diet, and I never did keto. In fact, I did what you and I called high protein keto,
right,
which is just another way to get into ketosis. But
well, yeah,
we didn't,
because most people don't understand that real keto is 80 to 90% fat.
right.
And why would you have 80 or 90% of your diet be fat?
Right.
I mean,
That's also really hard to just eat that. And then to be consistent, because I mean, people don't realize this, but that actually means you're not eating very much. And so now you also have this whole mental game going on of, oh, look at how much I'm eating. I'm not really eating that much.
Yeah.
And so I never did keto, because that's the one thing that everyone would ask me. They're like, well, did you do keto? You must have done keto. And everybody, I'm like, no, actually, I didn't do keto.
Yeah. I think it's kind of morphed into the concept of no carbs.
Right.
And so what they're really saying is, are you doing a no carb or an ultra low carb type diet? Because
which I did absolutely go down in carbs.
Yeah.
And in the keto world, what they talk about is they call it the keto flu. And what they're really referring to is your body is going through withdrawals from sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that takes, they say on average, 1 to 7 days. For me, it took 2 days. I had slight headaches for 2 days. And then literally the physical addiction is done.
Good.
It's just the mental addiction.
Yeah.
So when you and I teamed up, you were like, look, you need to have a free day every week that you can have whatever you want. You can have more calories. In fact, it was like a time and a half or 2 times the amount of calories.
It's about double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember literally the last time I had what you would consider a true free day.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally a year ago. I still had, days where I doubled my calories.
On your 44th birthday?
It was actually Halloween.
Oh, okay.
So what happened on that day, I had pizza, I had candy, and I felt like crap.
I remember.
And I was like, okay, on my free day, I'm not ever eating that crap again.
So you started eating real food,
just
but
more
just
of
a lot of it
yeah.
on your free days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would still allow myself, like it's the one day a week that I allow myself to have ice cream, which is like, that's my
your
thing.
big treat.
I love ice cream.
Yeah.
So my free day, I eat lots of food and I go have ice cream.
Okay. So if you were to tell somebody that you met in an elevator and you're going to be on the elevator for 30 seconds and they said, wow, Pete, you've lost 100 plus pounds. What would you give me as advice is the most effective way to lose weight? And you've got just a short elevator ride to tell somebody, this is the most effective way that I found to lose weight.
It would be to stop eating anything that has added sugar. I mean, that would be the biggie, which basically means stop eating processed foods.
So would you say that most of the foods that people think of as healthy are in fact healthy and low sugar?
Most of the foods that people think are healthy, as far as packaging goes, like they got the great green package and it says organic blah, 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 and it's mostly crap.
Yeah.
It's mostly really, really bad. The pastas, they look all good and nice and pretty, and yet it's crap. Mm-hmm. It's not good for your body. And I think that's part of what the food industry knows they're doing, is they're putting foods out there that are highly addictive. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, man. Pre-COVID, my family would go to Disneyland basically once or twice a week because it's right down the street. The rest of my family would go more often because I can't stand the place. But they say in America, like 70% of Americans are overweight and like 50% are obese. And I would start walking around there and I'm like, yeah, every once in a while you see someone skinny, but for the most part, people are very overweight.
Absolutely. And in fact, I think we were talking about this recently where the government has just recently come out. The most recent updated information is that 72% of Americans are considered overweight or obese.
Right.
72%. We're almost getting to the point where it's 3 out of 4.
Right.
This is crazy. I mean,
and really, we have all these healthy food choices now. And it's like, why is this happening? This is happening because of the crap they're giving us. And they know it's bad. They know it's addictive, but they're putting money in their pockets.
yeah.
And
It's all about money. That's the bottom line. It's about money. These companies could care less what your health is.
yeah, it's sad. But that's just the reality of it. And so, I mean, again, part of the motivation for me is I'm just so pissed at that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like, okay, I was fat my whole life because you bastards lied to me and told me, oh, well, you just need to move more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you were the one that was telling me, you actually don't need to exercise to lose weight. And I'm like, what?
Great point. Great point. And the question that I'm sure everyone wants to know is how much of your weight loss came from exercise and how much came from your food, your diet?
I would say 90% came from the food, 10%, if that, came from the exercise.
Wow.
And again, when I started, I was doing all cardio because I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that that wasn't the best way to lose weight. If that's your goal, is to lose fat. I was just like, well, this is what you're supposed to do, right? You know, you get on the exercise bike, and eventually it progressed to I was finally lost enough weight that I could get a real bike and then ride around the neighborhood. Because, I mean, that's how fat I was, right? I couldn't get a bike that could hold me and then ride around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, in fact, when you came on the scene and you had me start doing at-home exercises, I mean, but don't get me wrong, like, there are so much benefits to exercise. It's not the losing weight part that everyone thinks it is.
Right.
Like, the benefits, scientifically speaking, are just immense when it comes to exercise. But you had me doing just a little bit of strength training. We call it metabolic conditioning with bands, and I think we had 1 or 2 kettlebells. So, I mean, like...
And body weight only.
Body weight, right, exactly. And I remember 2 weeks after we started doing that, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, dude, I'm starting to get a muscle again. What the heck, dude?
Starting to see something happening here.
Like, all we're doing is a freaking band, and I'm doing a couple push-ups, and I'm like, how is this even possible?
Right.
So, I mean, the benefits of exercise go beyond the weight loss. And like now, I mean, this is actually my backyard. I've got my squat rack right behind us, because now I'm like, dude, I'm into this, man. Let's do it, right? Because now I love it.
Yeah. So this is a process that's worked extremely well for you. Do you think that the journey that you went through and the things that you did to drop all that weight and to add back muscle would be effective for anyone else?
Absolutely. I think that, I mean, one of the uniquenesses of people in general is everybody's body is different. So everybody might have, you know, they might need something different over here, a little tweak over there. And I think that's one of the real benefits of working with a coach like you is, like, you and I were even talking the other day, and you're like, now this is just for you. Like, don't be passing on this information for everyone else, because this is unique to your situation.
Right.
So everybody's body is different. However, there are some universal truths, unless you have some major disease or something like that.
Sure.
And that's why I think, in fact, as I walk around Disneyland and I see everybody that's overweight, and I just think to myself, you don't have to be that way. Like, if you knew what I knew now, you would know that it's actually way easier than you think to lose the weight, to get to where you want to be, to feel great, but you just don't know. And so to me, I really look at it and go, okay, the real centerpiece of this game is people need to know this stuff. Like, they need to know that they've been lied to. That it's not, oh, you just need to move more. You're too fat because you're sitting at a desk all day.
Right.
You're sitting at a desk all day. Big deal. All I do is sit at a desk. I lost 120 pounds sitting at a desk.
Right.
It's not the movement part. It's the
It's
food
this
part.
movement part.
Yes, that's the part.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people are like, oh, there's certain foods, I don't like. I don't want to eat broccoli. Well, don't eat broccoli. Like, I don't think there are, like, you have to eat these foods.
Right.
I would say there are foods you have to not eat. That I would say, because I think there are some foods that are just so bad that I won't touch them. But I love eating steak. I love ground beef. I love chicken, and I eat a crap ton of that stuff. I did stop eating white potatoes.
Okay.
But that was because I realized, okay, well, this stuff is hitting my system so quick. It's just like having a big ball of sugar. And I switched everything over to sweet potatoes, which is kind of ironic to me because they got so much sugar in it. You think this is really bad for you, and it's actually the exact opposite.
Right.
It's really good for you.
Right.
It's because of all the fiber and everything else that's in there. And so, I mean, there are foods that I don't touch anymore. But I'm eating all the time. Like, you have me eat like 5 or 6 meals a day. I mean, they're tiny meals, right? It's not like a full dinner plate, but how can you go hungry when you're eating every few
time
hours?
you start to feel like you're hungry, you're eating.
Right. Yeah, it's just not it's not a thing.
So along with the specific eating plan that you were on, what were you doing as far as any supplements and I'm just going to have to ask, were you taking any fat loss drugs?
So I didn't, as far as supplements go, I never took any fat burners or anything that was classified as a fat burner.
Why not?
Most of them I thought were crap.
Okay, most of them don't work. That's true.
Yeah, so
almost all.
Back in the day, 20 years ago, when ephedra was legal, the ECA stack, ephedra, caffeine, aspirin, was phenomenal.
That did work.
It did work.
There were studies proving it.
And then, the government, oh, that's too good. We got to take that one off the shelf.
Companies
of course it is. It's freaking money.
Lobbying the government, the Congress, to outlaw it.
Right.
It was a joke.
And then they did it, even though the stuff's been around for 1,000 years. Oh, well, this kid died. Yeah, people die every day. And if you take anything overdose, you're going to die. But whatever. So back then, I would have said, yes, I did take that back then, 20 years ago. But today, I'm like, I know everything is pretty much crap. So do I take supplements? Absolutely. But they're more like vitamins. Okay. Like I take vitamin D, I take vitamin C. I do have very low good cholesterol, so I take niacin. When I remember to take it, I take fish oil. That one, when I run out, it's like, oh, I got to go buy more, and I always forget on that one. Yeah. I take a multivitamin, magnesium. So, I mean, I'm taking minerals and vitamins, but not a fat burner supplement.
Okay, very good. I'm just kind of wondering, as you went through the process, was there any particular obstacle that you felt like, whether it was support or lack of, family, community, friends, or anything? Was there anything that you felt like, this is an obstacle to me getting to where I want to go?
I would say in this situation, this is one of those things where I'm a little bit more unique than your average person. If I decide I'm going to do something, then there's almost nothing that's going to stop me and get in my way of that. My family was supportive in the sense that my wife let me do what I wanted to do for my meals.
Okay.
She wasn't like, well, you have to eat what I'm making for dinner.
Okay.
So even to this day, they'll have whatever they're having, and I have usually what I want to eat. Okay. Which is going to be very specific because of whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish. Right. Put on more muscle, whatever. It's probably going to be more protein. Freaking love avocados. I eat literally 2 avocados a day. I mean, they were supportive in that manner. However, I will say this. I don't know that my wife believed I would do it.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, she wasn't like she was not supportive. I don't think she believed I would actually do it. Okay. So I think she was pleasantly surprised that, I stuck to it. And people have asked me, you know, how did you stick to it? Because it still took like a year to lose 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was able to stick to it is when you still see the scale going down, like, I know you're not supposed to weigh yourself every day. Even you tell everyone that, don't weigh yourself every day. And I would still freaking weigh myself every day.
And when it would pop up 1/10 of a pound,
oh, that would piss me off.
You'd be like, Wayne, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Or
you had a lot of salt yesterday. It's water. Don't worry about
you
it.
would plateau for a week, right?
Yeah. And that would piss me off. But at least at the beginning stages, right? I mean, because at the beginning, that's when everything you start losing like crazy. Because your body is like, what the heck is going on here? You know, I'm not getting all this sugar. Right. Go to the fat, burn it off. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning, you know, you're seeing like 0.3 of a pound every day. And it started to freak me out. Because again, I remember 20 years ago, lost all that weight really quick. What I've since discovered with all of my studies is that really what it was, what screwed up my gallbladder, I didn't eat enough dietary fat. Like, because everyone said fat's bad.
You did the low fat thing, and that was the thing to do back then.
And that was the thing that actually ruined my gallbladder.
Yeah.
I had such little fat because your gallbladder, the bile that it produces is used to break down the fat. And when you don't have any fat, it builds up and ends up turning into little stones, gallstones. And I had so many of them that they had to go in and cut the whole thing out.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So with all that, were there times when you would plateau and just feel like, okay, this is it and I'm done?
Yeah, absolutely plateaued. Several plateaus along the way.
Yeah.
I never felt like, okay, I'm done because
Or like, this is good enough. I've plateaued, I'm done, this is good enough, I'll stay here.
No, not that I would stay there.
Okay.
I would just get pissed. Because, I mean, I'm like, dude, I'm not at my goal. This sucks. And you would just be like, dude, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Every day, your body is getting better. Every day, even though you may not see it on the scale. And that's what I finally had to learn was the scale can be very misleading. Because it's literally just talking about your weight that day with all your muscle, all your water, all the fat, everything combined.
Yeah.
But what's going on internally, you know, when you start adding muscle, I mean, that starts to mess with your mind too. Because you're like, wait, the scale's going up. Yeah, but it's muscle, right? Good thing, you know, not bad, good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very good. I'm just curious, at what point along the path did people start saying, Pete, are you losing weight? You look better.
Yeah.
What's going on? When did that start happening? So if you can recall, about a poundage area where people started saying, you're looking good, man. What's going on?
For me, it was when I hit about 260.
Okay. So you dropped what, about 40,
about
50
40,
pounds?
40, 45 pounds, somewhere in that range. And I think that's because I had so much to lose. And, you know, it could have been people were afraid to say anything. In some ways, honestly, it's kind of embarrassing when people do say anything to me today, because I'm like, damn, dude, I was so fat. Like,
yeah.
It's almost like embarrassing to even think about,
that
I
you
really
had been there.
I had been that fat.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, probably about 260.
So around 260?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, now that you've hit your goal, right? You came down into the 180s.
Yeah,
right? You hit
186 was the lowest I got. And then I was like, okay, I want to put on some muscle. And so
tell me about, so once you hit your goal, how did your
I didn't hit my goal. I got to 186.
Right.
So here's part of the problem, part of the downside, if you will, to being obese your whole life, is I still have a lot of loose skin in my torso area. So every time I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, dude, I'm fat. Because I remember telling you, man, maybe I got to get to 170, because I'm thinking it's fat. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is loose skin.
Right.
So, you know, what it was is finally I'm at 186. And I'm like, I got veins freaking popping out everywhere. I got veins all over my calves, things on my thighs. I'm like, what? Okay. Oh, this is loose skin. And like all of a sudden it hit me, and I'm like, all right, stop stop striving for some other number.
Right.
You've gotten your body fat percentage as low as it's going to go or needs to go. Like, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not going for some bodybuilding competition.
Sure.
Let's now just focus on building muscle and
So
filling
what
everything
happened
out.
then? How did your eating plan and your exercise and things change from the point at which you were going down, 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 and you hit that 186, and then you said, okay, that's enough, and now I'm going to change and do something different? And what was that?
I reached out to you again and I said, hey, I want to start adding some muscle. This is end of January. And one of the things you're like, well, you're going to need to start, lifting weights. The bands and stuff are great, but if you really want to add muscle, we need to put your muscle under a lot more strain. And so I went and I joined the local gym, and you gave me a workout plan, and I just was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And I just literally every morning, first thing I do, I'd wake up, go to the gym, do the workout, take like 45 minutes or so, drive back, so an hour I'm there and back, and I'm done. And then 7 weeks later, COVID happened, and everything closes down.
Right.
And I was like, crap,
And that's when this came into existence.
Not yet.
Okay.
So it closes down. I'm working out, but it's like, okay, you go from lifting weights to like back to the bands, and you're like, this sucks, man. Right? And so I'm like, I'm just gonna go ride my bike, right? So I'd start.
But the bands are great. The kettlebells are great.
They were great.
Body weight only is great.
I should have kept doing it, but then I was like, I'm gonna go ride my bike. So I'd ride my bike, and then like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, or whenever it was, I don't remember. California here opens back up. We can go back to the gym. I'm back in it. I'm hitting it hard. I'm loving every minute of it. And then 3 weeks later, California closes down again. And then that's when I was like, screw this. I'm not going back through it.
That's when
literally ran out, bought the squat rack, bought the bench, bought some weights from someone else. And I was like, all right, I'm setting myself up.
Okay. So, and what did you change on the eating? So
I got to eat a lot more.
You got to eat a lot more, right?
So
Because all of a sudden we're wanting to put on some muscle.
Right, yeah. So again, my macros didn't change as far as like the percentages. Like I said, we were on a high protein keto, if you want to call it that.
Right.
So I was still eating a lot of protein. It's just I could go from 2,000 calories to 2,700 calories, and like that. So I mean, it was really just got to eat a lot more.
Okay. So still high protein.
Still high protein.
Keeping the sugar out of the diet, keeping carbs relatively low or not, or what?
Yeah, still to this day. I mean, I consider it, medium right now, because I'm more on a maintenance at this moment. And I'm at probably 150 to 170 grams a day, net grams of carbs.
Okay.
So take out the fiber, about 150 to 170. I call that medium.
And so let's see, you started at 186 in January, right? How much do you weigh now,
210. Well, 211.
to be specific?
Well, I mean,
So 210.
this morning it was 211.4, but I'm not doing it every day.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
I know you too well.
It fluctuates between, the 210s,
and 212.
yeah, exactly.
Roughly. Yeah, okay. So
And the veins are still all there. That's how I knew it wasn't fat.
this is the big question.
Because that was the fear,
This is
right?
the big fear and the big question, right? You went from 186 to 210-ish. What happened to your waist?
My waist never changed.
That's freaking awesome.
I mean, yeah, the waist never changed.
So you're saying that was almost all muscle?
Yeah, muscle, lean mass. I don't really know how the body, how much of it's lean mass and how much of it's, muscle or internal organs or whatnot. But yeah, and
Well, hopefully your internal organs didn't grow.
I don't know how all that works. I'm not a doctor, right? All I know is
Thinking a large heart's pretty serious problem.
whatever. But the other thing too is like, because how I would always judge it is what do my veins look like today?
Okay.
I know that
like
sounds
how
weird.
vascular are you?
Yeah, do I still see the freaking veins popping out on my shoulder and on my chest? Or my calves, do I still have my veins running down the side? My arms, do I still have the veins? And I'm like, okay, if I can see the veins, then I know I'm not adding fat.
Right.
And
Good.
so that's
where you're at.
that's kind of how I mentally could go, okay, you can calm down, Pete. You're going up in weight, but it's just muscle.
So you've added a solid 22 pounds, roughly 20, maybe a few more, roughly. And you're saying that you did that, but specifically how? I mean, how does somebody add 22, 23, 24 pounds of muscle in a 5-month period, would you say?
I would say it's probably because of, obviously you can't keep that up. Like, I don't think my body would keep going. It's going to hit a point where it goes, okay, genetically, this is where you're supposed to be at. And above that, you'd have to be doing, I don't know, steroids or something like that, something else. But I mean, really, I just did what you told me to do. Like, I don't know enough about what you are or are not supposed to do. So you just said, eat this, do this workout. And then every once in a while you would come back and go, okay, well, we're going to add this to your workout and we're going to, switch up that and do stuff like that. So I just did what you said. You tell me, how does it work? I don't know how it works.
Hey, I really have to congratulate you because you've just made such fantastic changes in a relatively short time period, both dropping 120 pounds and then popping up 20 plus pounds of lean muscle.
Right. Yeah, and I will say this.
Beautiful.
The coolest thing is this, like, from a self-esteem point of view, I want to be careful how I say this because I want you to understand how cool it is, but I also don't want to give the wrong impression here. So a big part of my job is I do marketing for various companies, and I've got a lot of independent clients that come to me. And one of the industries that I do a lot of marketing in is the real estate industry, which is predominantly women in it. And so this is just kind of cool, right? I've been fat my whole life. No woman, I think, has ever hit on me in my entire life. And I get this email from this one gal, and she's like asking me all these questions.
About
marketing. No, about marketing.
Okay.
Right. So she's, couching this as a marketing email.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she's like, P.S., nice muscles. And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
So I call my wife, and I'm like, wife, look at this. She's like, whatever. Right?
She's like, how much do you have to pay her?
She's like, whatever, I don't care. But to me, I was just like, dude, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. So last question. A lot of people have gone through the whole yo-yo dieting thing, right? They diet down, the next thing you know, they've gained the weight back and probably more. So what advice would you have to give to somebody that's dieted and gained it back and gone through that maybe over decades of time and just has said, this is just not for me, I'm destined to be fat or whatever. What advice would you give them to encourage them to get on a path to a permanent weight loss process?
It was July of 2019. I was doing a marketing call with one of my business partners, and we were talking about the weight loss journey that I had started. So, I mean, it had only been like a month that I had understood the role of sugar, and I'd totally cut it all out. And I was telling my buddy Jimbo, I was like, I have had what people refer to as a lifestyle change. Like, I knew it then. That it wasn't, I was on a diet. It was like, no, I have changed my whole lifestyle. Like, I won't eat certain foods and I will have plenty of other foods. And now food just doesn't have control over me. Now, at that point, food still very well could have, because the mental desire of, oh, I want that donut, or I want that hamburger, or I want that whatever was still there. But I had made that decision. Look, I'm going to break this. And I was willing to stick with it. I was willing to put in the time to get to the point to where the mental addiction was gone, as well as, obviously the physical addiction didn't take that long to boot. But someone who's yo-yo dieting, I'd say, first of all, you just really need to understand the nutrition side of things. And what they're not telling you. And it's not about you're not moving enough. I don't care if you sit in front of a computer all day. That's what I do. Like, my office is right there. I literally am at the computer hours and hours a day. I drive on average 5,000 miles a year because I don't freaking go anywhere. Like I am at my house all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of moving more. And really the biggest movement I do is every morning I come out here and I do my weightlifting, and that's that. So it's not that side, it's the food side. And if you understand that, and then you start to understand you can have great food, but you are going to have a trade-off. And the trade-off for me is, okay, I have to do meal prep. My wife is not going to make the food for me. I got to make it for myself. So I literally go to Costco, buy big old bags of chicken thighs and ground beef and steak, and I usually grill 1 day a week. I'll grill up all my food. I got little plastic containers, I stick it all in there, stick it in the freezer, and then, you know, each day I just take out whatever I'm eating that day, and then with whatever else, you know, maybe I'm making some potatoes or broccoli or, you know, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So the trade-off is you have to be willing to put in the time. And if you're like, well, I'm too busy for that, well then, all right then. Be happy being fat, because you do have to make adjustments in your life. There is no free lunch. You're going to have to do something different.
Very good. I think that absolutely hits the nail on the head.
Cool.
You have to do something different. You've gone through a certain period of time overweight, and if that's going to change, something else has to change, right?
Right.
And so I think most people have to understand that at whatever point in time you're tired of being fat, you're tired of being unhealthy, whenever that pain of being the unhealthy fat guy gets severe enough, you'll decide, I'm going to make some changes and I'm going to be healthy, and I don't want to be 70 years old and in a wheelchair or in a hospital. I want to be out and about and running around and having fun with kids and grandkids and all that. And so you're going to have to make some changes in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And once you made those changes, look at all the great benefits.
I know, it's incredible. I mean, it's like a whole different world for me. Like I go out very unoften. What's the right word?
Seldom?
Seldom. There we go. That's the right word. I don't go out very often, but when I do, it's like I'm walking around going, yeah, I'm actually one of the good-looking people here.
That's right.
Like I'm not trying to be all arrogant or whatnot. Because in fact, it was really funny, man. I was at church a few weeks ago, and I don't remember what shirt I was wearing. It was one of my t-shirts, and my traps were really like popping out, right? And so, you know, I was there talking with a bunch of friends, and one of the wives was like, or the guy goes, the husband goes, man, look at those traps, man, they're huge. And I go, I know, right? And the wife's like, oh yeah, you're just, and I'm like, no, I didn't mean it like arrogantly. I was like, no, seriously, I lost 120 pounds. I put on 25 pounds a month. I'm kind of proud.
I didn't know I had traps.
Look at that.
Look, you got them.
I was like, no, I'm proud, baby. I wasn't like trying to be arrogant about it. I was like, no, dude, I did the work, man. Yeah. It paid off.
It paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a life-changing experience, and I'll never go back. I'll never go back.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Good job.